now is the time to reveal the top 10 players in the EFL right now. Now, there are a lot of players in the EFL, okay? So if you want to get angry, that's fine. That's kind of the point of these kind of things. But make sure you let us know what nominees you would want to put forward. We'll have a read through those at the end. And, of course, get involved in the comments as well. I'll be in the comments ready for a chat, so get involved. Let's get into this then, George, with number 10. I'll say the name. You give me your loving feelings of them. Jack Payne for Swindon.
Loving feelings for a Swindon player, right? Yeah, I mean, I want to caveat this before because I don't like people getting angry with me. So I'm just going to say we can't pick everybody. The premise for this was players who maybe we didn't expect to be as good as they've been, who've kind of surprised us and are in incredible form. So sorry, Fulham fans, sorry, Bournemouth fans, sorry, Sunderland fans. But yeah, Jack Payne is, Swindon deserve immense credit for what they've done so far this season. There was a time where we thought they were going to be the club in League Two who are going to really struggle to put a team out, let alone perform well. Jack Payne was there last season, and I think him staying at the club in the summer, committing his future as soon as Clem Morfuni bought the club from Lee Power, was a massive sign that they were ready to recruit well and to be a force at this club. They were favourites for relegation at the beginning of the season, and Payne is everything the way that Ben Garner wants to play. He's a very, very technical player. He can play across all attacking midfield positions. He's creative. He's a brilliant dribbler. When he's on form, he's a good goal scorer too. And, he was part of the Huddersfield squad who won promotion to the Premier League. He's only 26 now. He's too good for League Two. The same can be said of Johnny Williams as well, who's there too. So consistency has been his issue in the past. He started the season incredibly well. A few other players, Joe Allcott, the keeper, has been immense so far too. It's been a really strong start for Swindon after a really difficult summer. As an Oxford fan, I'm not talking as an Oxford fan here, but from just an EFL fan, I think everyone's delighted to see the strides that they're making under their new owner, and long may it continue.
Yes, 3 goals so far this season. That's only one shy of the 4 that he got in the entirety of last season. Top of Swindon's players when it comes to key passes per 92.1, which is pretty solid. And Swindon, who aren't that kind of free scoring, they've only got 8 goals from 7 games. He's going to be absolutely crucial for them. 9th on the list, Matt O'Reilly, all-round midfielder, having a great season so far, isn't he, George?
Yeah, all-round midfielder just about covers it because he can do absolutely everything. He is probably one of the players in the EFL that I'm most excited about in terms of his ceiling at MK Dons. Him and Ethan Robson have a brilliant midfield partnership together. He's the player who is he's incredibly good off the ball. His pressing ability here, you can see him picking the pocket of the Ipswich defender and actually spin down and sliding into the corner. But he's also a brilliant passer. He can keep it simple when he wants to. Often you'll see him rack up 100 passes in a game, but he's also an elite dribbler too. So as a opposition centre midfielder, you just don't know how you're going to nullify his threat, because if you stand off him, he'll just run at you. If you jump past him, he's got the incisive passing to go past. His pressing is a nightmare. At 21 years of age, and to help it, he's left-footed too, and he's got a good set piece delivery from corners. He is just the whole package. And their succession planning, we saw Scott Fraser come through last season, I'm a massive fan of his, have a brilliant campaign last season. They sell him on for a profit, and suddenly they've got O'Reilly and Robson there with Scott Twine brought in with that cash. It's just very, very clever recruitment. And he's a player who I think MK Dons fans are going to struggle to see more of after this season. I can imagine he's got to get a championship move next summer or in January.
Yeah, he fits into that possession-based system really, really well. And that combination that you're talking about is absolutely right. I've got some of the stats here. So 1.73 key passes per game. In terms of defensive work, 3.6 tackles and interceptions per 90, which is great. And his ball progression is 2.1 successful dribbles, a success rate of 65%. So all of those are solid, good numbers, right? It's the fact that it's all of them together is super, super impressive when it comes to Matt O'Reilly. Let's head down into the first. Well, is our first League Two member? Oh no, it's not. I can't remember.
No, we had Payne. We had Payne.
Yeah, we had Payne. Andy Cook, natural goal scorer, 147 career goals across 393 games. Massive part to play for Bradford this year, right?
Yeah, a huge part. And, it took him a while to get off the mark this season. But any Bradford fan, as you say, he is a known goal scorer. But any Bradford fan will tell you that even before he did get those crucial goals here, I think it was a hat-trick, wasn't it, on the day that got him off the mark. He'd been one of their key performers already so far in the campaign. He's such a clever player. He's very, very good at holding the ball up. He's very good at bringing others into play. And then he's got the goal scoring ability to boot as well. You know, we saw 2 balls into the box there. You can see his strength, his ability to get into the area, and then such a calm, delicate finish as well. I'm excited by Bradford this season. You know, Andy Cook is one player, Callum Cook's another, the centre midfielder, and Elliot Watt as well. Those are 2 centre midfielders who are going places too. They easily could have been added to this list, although Watt maybe better last season. Cook, the other Cook, too many Cooks maybe, the one who has been impressing this time around. But in Andy, they've got that talismanic goal scorer who I'm sure they're going to have a strong season this season. We saw what Derek Adams did with Cole Stockton last season at Morecambe and how he's carried on that form. And I think Cook is going to be in for that same Derek Adams treatment, and the goals will come as well.
Yeah, he's winning 12.7 aerial duels. That's 53% per game, which is really impressive for someone who's kind of 6'1". And I think the thing with him, when I look at it, we go, yep, that's the striker that teams that get promoted have. That prototype, exactly. You know, the look, the hard work on that right channel a lot of the time, and of course, being dominant or impressive in the air. I think it's all of those little ingredients that could make Bradford really, really strong this season. In 7th place, I'll just get it out of the way. There's Jack Grealish comparisons to be made here. Callum O'Hare at Coventry City. Now, why have you picked someone who hasn't actually got a kind of an assist or a goal as of yet?
Because those can often be misleading. It's something Ali and I often say, assists especially. I mean, goals are not misleading at all, but he is just an unbelievable footballer. You know, of all the players who maybe don't play for one of the sides recently relegated from the Premier League, he is the one who I think could have a future at a top-level Premier League team. His dribbling ability is so reminiscent of, you know, his fellow former Villa player, Grealish. And the one thing that haven't come yet are the goals, but he's taking a lot of shots this season, a lot of shots from good positions. And as you're seeing, maybe not quite getting the luck of the draw with some of them. I think the goals will come. And what often gets unnoticed with him, except for us real data nerds, is that his pressing numbers are off the scale good. Absolutely off the scale good. You know, his pressing numbers are as good as anybody in the division, playing in a position where you don't normally see that. And I think that's what's going to really attract him to top level managers when he does make his move. If he does make his move, who knows, maybe Coventry will go up this season. Is that not only are you getting hold of a player who has the dribbling ability to really cause teams problems. Now, often with Grealish, when he was being linked to big clubs, a lot of people questioned his off the ball movement, which was nonsense, but we won't get into that. But with O'Hare, no one can doubt the work that he puts in off the ball, and that is a big strength of his. I'm excited to see. You know, he hasn't got the goal output yet, but he's been a massive part of why Coventry have had such a good start to this season. And Coventry fans, you know, he won all the awards last season. I saw somebody on Twitter when you said that I was coming in here today says, okay, that means O'Hare's in the team because, my love for him is maybe no secret.
Yeah, I saw him against QPR recently. Very, very, very impressive. And you're talking about those pressing stats. Also, in terms of tackles, 1.7 tackles per 90, which is very high for a forward. Key passes 2.5 per 90. So I think you're right. Those assists and those goals are on the horizon, and he makes it into your top 10. By the way, in the chat, let us know who are we missing out on? Who would you put in there? Who are your nominees? Get them involved in the chat. We'll have a little look in a second. Next up, in 6th place, I think this was one of my guarantees. We're kind of getting into a few of these that are definite guarantees, but this was certainly had to be one. They're taking the ground running, and then there's SORBA Thomas. SORBA Thomas absolutely tearing it up in his first season. Amazing story, but a really exciting player. Really, really exciting player, isn't he?
Really exciting. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting when he signed from Boreham Wood. The announcement on the Huddersfield website referred to him as a forward, and he's been put in as being can play on the right or the left. I mean, he's predominantly he is right-footed, but he's been in a more withdrawn role, almost as a wing back. And we can see here it's not only his set piece delivery, but his general delivery with that right foot is something to behold. The way that he strikes a ball is so impressive. And we've seen him already this season provide an assist for Naby Sarr, for Tom Lees, and for Matty Pearson, 3 of the 4 Huddersfield centre-backs who are going to enjoy it. The thing that Huddersfield are lacking at the moment is an out-and-out goal scorer, a striker who can get on the end of those things. It's incredible that SORBA Thomas is getting these, I think it's 5 assists in all comps this season, given there is no kind of big man up front for him to aim at. It's the defenders who are getting on the end of it. Jordan Rhodes will be back in a couple of months. Could he be the person to profit from it? Maybe. If I was Carlos Corberán, if I was Huddersfield, I'd be looking for that kind of striker, that 6'2", 6'3" striker who Thomas can look for consistently. Because there's nobody really probably in the EFL at the moment who is delivering the ball better from wide positions than Thomas. And for him to be doing this in what is his first run of consistent games at this level is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, from that wing back role, that is it. It's about the vision as much as dribbling or anything like that.
Massively,
because 3.9 key passes. The only person who's got more is Vrancic. He's playing attacking midfield for Stoke City. Who's got 4. So that's outrageous. That's completely outrageous. And one thing I would say, he qualifies for Wales, so I can imagine that call up coming very very shortly for SORBA.
He's there.
Go for it.
He's the one player who when we often ask opposition fans to tell us who they've been impressed with, because often, we both know when we go to games and there's one player on the opposition who really catches your eye, they've been good, because generally they're just kind of all, pale into the same person. And Thomas is always the one. Like, anyone who goes and watches Huddersfield says, like, wow, that SORBA Thomas is really something. And that just shows just how well he's been playing.
Yeah, the eye test, of course, crucial in all of this.
Of course.
Next up, JAMILLE Matt, Forest Green Rovers. The thing I like about him, just before you sort of wax lyrical, I love the role that he's playing there. This sort of the kind of anchor play. He's actually playing off Matt Stevens at times, but I love that he's sort of he holds up the ball, lays it off, brings other players into play, and then spins in, and he's always on that penalty spot. He's always on that penalty spot, ready to score goals for them. And we were talking about Andy Cook earlier. JAMILLE Matt is probably more complete. 4 goals and 3 assists this season. I think he's having a great season so far, and possibly a little bit too good for League Two. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he is in this kind of form. I mean, to be clear, we could have picked any number of Forest Green players here. Matty Stevens could have been one. Nicky Cadden could have been it. Kane Wilson, Ebu Adams, they are blessed with an incredible array of attacking talent. But Matt is the one with 4 goals and 3 assists so far, who, as you say, he's fulfilling the goal scorer role and the provider role as well. And playing in the front too, he's very, very difficult to handle. The interesting thing with him is that he's now 31, and he's had long spells of his career where he hasn't been the goal scorer, where he's been there to be the foil. And then he's also had times in his career where he's been there as the main man. His 16-goal haul last season was the most he's ever scored in a season, which isn't a massive return for a guy who we consider to be probably up there with the most likely, if not one of the most likely people to win the Golden Boot in League Two this season. But under Rob Edwards, he's getting every part of that game out of him. He's doing both roles. He's playing both roles he's played in his career at the same time. And that is what's so incredibly impressive about him. Often players like that can improve with age. He's never been particularly reliant on his pace. He's not somebody who there's any reason why he should regress into his 30s at all. And yeah, I do think he's too good. I think he is the pick of the bunch at the moment in League Two. But as I say, he is part of a team in Forest Green who have so many players operating at such a high level. He's just about coming out on top because he's the man who's getting a bit of both.
Speaking of teams that are performing at an incredibly high level despite losing their last game, we go to number 4, and there's been a few people here. There's been a few people here that we both enjoy very much, and we were both. It was in the EFL Cup, wasn't it? I think you were down the other end, Oxford versus EPR,
I was,
and
behind the goal.
We haven't got that goal, sadly. We have got some of his best clips. I mean, I can kind of take this one for you if you want. For me, the thing that is outrageous, and that this goal is the great example of it, is forget the strike, which is amazing. It's the dribbling. It's the constant, yeah, I'm fine, I'll take it through. And it's not for kind of no reason. It starts something, it creates, we talk about overloads a lot of the time. It creates kind of overloads in the middle of the pitch, which is so useful for us when we've got someone like Johansson who can pick up different areas of space, because there's complete trust with him. And I know he made a mistake against Bournemouth the other day, but 1.6 successful dribbles per 90 so far. His success rate is 85%. He's what I would say about him is, the one concern I have about him is maybe turning and going the other way, but he plays on the front foot so much. I think he's winning 70% of his ground duels. So it's not a problem, especially in the style that we play. We play 3 centre-backs. So again, he can kind of be that guy that goes to try and kind of nick the ball and win it and start attacks off for us. He's had a sensational start to the season, but to be honest, he's been fantastic for the entirety of this calendar year. I was intrigued to see how he would get on when he stepped up, and he's been absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think what often goes unnoticed, maybe with neutrals, not with QPR fans, is just how good a defender he is. It's a bit of cliche thing to say, but of all the clips of him scoring worldies and stuff, it's that clearance off the line against Hull. I mean, that's the big moment, isn't it? That's at 0-0. You go on to win the game 2-0, and there aren't very many defenders who would have the positional sense. And then the technical ability to pull off that block. It was an unbelievable goal line clearance. And he is just a very, very good defender. At Oxford, we didn't see as much of the stepping out of defence and dribbling. We didn't see very much goal scoring at all. I mean, he's always a very good ball player, a very good passer, and always very brave on the ball. He often tried switches even when it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying. He is incredibly popular at Oxford. You were there at the game, and we were chanting his name basically more than any of our players on the day, and he gave us a long clap afterwards. And that's the kind of guy that he is. He's not somebody who's going to run down his contract. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that he signed a new contract at Oxford 6 or 8 months before he left, basically in order to help Oxford protect their own asset, which we don't see very often in the game anymore. He's a great defender, a great man, and I remember speaking to Carl Robinson, interviewing him before we played Man City in the Cup 18 months ago. And he told me that he thought Rob Dickie would play for England. And I don't see anything that's happened since then to suggest that he wouldn't.
Wow. Watch this space. I mean, not this season, please. I think
if it wasn't for that Bournemouth mistake, he could be top here.
Yeah, true. That's maybe in the long term, that's a good thing that the mistake against Bournemouth recently.
There was a moment in the QPR game where he went down clutching his knee. And all the Oxford fans are suddenly like, oh no, that's our 20%. That's our 20%.
Yes, I remember. In third place, OLADAPO of AFOLAYAN, the Bolton sort of left winger, but he is perfect for this Ian Evatt system. 4 goals in his first 7 appearances. It's his first season back in League One. And it's this little area here that he seems to kind of crop up a lot of the time and score his goals. He's not sort of hugging the wing, is he? He's a really interesting player for Bolton and how they want to play.
Really interesting, and especially because he had a successful loan spell last season and only scored 1 goal in the second half of the season. They still signed him anyway, and Ian Evatt said the only thing that's been missing from his performances is the output, is the goals and the assists, and they will come. And the assists haven't yet, but as I say, assists are sometimes misleading, especially at this stage of the season. But the goals certainly have. He gave Ken Vincent-Young an absolute nightmare on Saturday in the 5-2 win. Vincent-Young was hooked after 20 minutes after AFOLAYAN just completely. I think he just had to get in. He had to get in after what AFOLAYAN did to him. He's a player who, interestingly, the one difference with AFOLAYAN compared to other Premier League loanees who then make the deal permanent is that he was actually bought by West Ham after playing 45 games for Solihull in the National League. So he has that first team lower league experience previously before, which I think sets him in really good stead now to go and progress very, very quickly. They played a blinder by getting him. Bolton are incredible to watch this season. It's so different to the side we saw although they were very good in League Two. They won a lot of games by marginal goals. They're now incredibly open and expansive. And I think part of that is because in AFOLAYAN they have a maverick player who is just going to cause opposition defences absolute nightmares. And now he's added goals to his game. He's going to rise up the ranks pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's a lovely feel at Bolton as well, where it's kind of, they're not probably one of the favourites, but they're excited and they're fearless, and he's a big part of that. Moving into the top 2 then, and one player that we did speak about a little bit earlier on, but don't worry, we've got a few more of his goals. Anthony SCULLY, showing my age here, I remember his dad scoring a screamer when QPR needed to win against Palace at home to stay in the Championship as it was then. And he scored, in a 6-0 win. Actually, it was that day, one of the best days of my life. Anthony SCULLY actually is probably even better than Tony SCULLY, dare I say it. He's just absolutely flying at the moment. It's the dexterity for me. It's just creating 5 big chances, 3 assists, 5 goals. He's involved in a goal every 123 minutes. I mean, he's just a joy, isn't he, at the moment?
He really is, and I didn't know he had this in him. To be honest, he scored 11 goals last season, and it was a good return. But a lot of them were benefiting from the work of Brennan Johnson, of Morgan Rogers in the second half of the season. He was basically a wide poacher for the most part, and those 2 players have left. There's a big creative hole to fill, and SCULLY has taken it upon himself to do that. Against Cambridge, he had 3 assists and 2 goals in one game. He completely dominated the game itself, outside the box and inside the box as well, scoring brilliant goals. if he's got that ability, it's a very different level. But it reminds me a bit of Adam Armstrong, the ability to do it all as a forward player. He can be that poacher. He can be that guy who's going to be in the 6-yard box with the tap-ins. But when he drops in, he's also got the ability to beat a man, to cut inside onto his right foot, and has the goal-scoring ability to shoot from range and carry it off as well. So he's probably been the player of any high-ish profile player in the EFL in the first 7 games of the season who I've completely changed my mind about. It felt to me like he was profiting from being in a very good side last season, whereas now he is the standout player for a team, and at times seems to be doing it all on his own.
It's lovely when you do see that kind of that leveling up of a player as well. Where they kind of, now they're like, okay, it's my turn now. And it's just a lovely confidence about the way that he's playing, because those kind of goals should not be scored, really, like generally. For him to be able to kind of just keep cutting and keep doing it. I think what's going to be interesting, there's kind of that Robin vibe of like, well, I'm going this way. You can try and stop me, but I'm going to do it. I'm not comparing him to Robin, long term, but he's in great form. And what's going to be interesting, exactly. What's going to be interesting to see is if he can keep this up, because it is a long season, and with Brendan Johnson not there, they're going to need him to keep firing if they want to kind of get anywhere near the playoffs like they did last season. And number 1, now just to say, having a look at the chat, Gyökeres is in there. Nope, he's not in there. Anyone else missing out? Yeah,
can't have CALLUM and Gyökeres.
Zamora, no, not Zamora. Corley Woodrow doesn't make it. Number 1, there's only one man.
It has to be.
It has to be. It's a man who's directly involved in 77% of reading. Can't say reading. Reading. Christ. So now we're an hour in. Reading's goals. 10 goals for the season. Outrageous. John Swift. What is going on here? This is a player that a couple of seasons ago was starting to kind of be this sort of midfield controller, keeping the ball, moving it about. And now all of a sudden he's turned into Frank Lampard. What's happened here?
It's a bit of a metamorphosis, to be honest, because he always has been a very, very talented, very technically gifted footballer. And that's always been the case at Reading. We know that from his Chelsea days, from his loan at Brentford. But he had 2 very bad hamstring injuries last season, and he seems to have basically gone to the gym, and he looks a completely different physical specimen now to how he looked previously, whilst retaining all of that technical ability as well. He was never particularly quick, so getting it a bit bigger hasn't really been an issue for him. And he's now looks to be that player who can completely dominate games of football, both with his passing ability. His set pieces, his free kicks are absolutely brilliant. His goal scoring inside the box is great as well. I mean, without John Swift, Reading would have had an absolutely abysmal start to their season. It couldn't really have gone worse. But with him in the team, it makes them such a good attacking unit. Ovi Ajaria is another brilliant player who's now back after some COVID complications, which is huge for them as well. Defensively, there are still some issues, of course, but with Swift in the side and in this kind of form, I think the only reason why we haven't seen a Premier League team take a gamble on him this summer is probably because of that hamstring injury, because he had a long-term absence. You don't want to be getting involved with a guy necessarily there who could be out for a long spell of time. But there's no denying at all that he's got the capability of being a Premier League footballer. And we're now seeing what a physically fit and informed John Swift can do in the Championship. And it's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, it's lovely to see. I think he's always one of those that when you look at opposition teams, he's a player that you're kind of a little bit nervous about, because that he has got that knack. Some players have that knack of being able to score goals, but to this level, I mean, surely it's unsustainable. I mean, 10 goals so far this season, 7 goals and 3 assists. As I said, 70% of Reading's goals. First player to get to double figures in terms of goal contributions, and key passes, 3.1 key passes per 90 as well. Just, it's really interesting. I say this every week, but it's so lovely to see the evolution of players. To go back to QPR briefly, Ilias Chair, who fuming is not on this. I'm joking. Is not on the list. But again, one of those players who kind of is evolving as a footballer, and it's so nice to see. We've got a few. So there's a few from you guys. Joe Neelan says Gyökeres, Blues 1904. Waiting for Callum Guy. John Sparks says Jordan Zamora has had an outstanding start to the season. Tony Davis says Elliot Embleton. So those other players are available, but they have not made it.
Embleton is certainly one Embleton fits the bill of somebody who's, he was brilliant at Blackpool last season. He's come into the Sunderland side, and I'm just delighted to see him finally doing it for Sunderland, because he's deserved his chance for a long time. There are so many players who we could have had on here. Zamora and Anthony at Bournemouth returned to them coming into the side and playing their way they are is an incredible story. Plenty more. We'll have to do another list in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, every single Thursday, 4 p.m, I will be live on the League of 72 channel talking about all things EFL, looking at all 72 clubs. So if you want to join us for the exclusive access and, of course, watching some of your favourite goals from your team, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell.